Good morning to all our participants from Germany and a very good afternoon to everyone who is joining in from India. Thank you for joining our session on setting up of a production facility in India, which is brought to you by Roadland Partner Consulting Private Limited and MPS Tech Engineering Private Limited. In today's session, we have our experts from the compliance and architectural background who will take you through the various aspects of how a production facility can be set up in India. From Roadland Partner, we have Mr. Dharam Krishnawat, who is an expert on commercial law and labor law, data protection, as well as intellectual property rights. Dharam has more than 12 years of professional experience, and he has been working for Roadland Partners since the last 10 years. He is currently designated as an associate partner, and he has been advising companies in HR matters like trade union disputes and employee exits, representing MNCs in various court proceedings. From MPS, we have Mr. Sikandar Yadav. Architect Sikandar Yadav has graduated from the National Institute of Technology in Nagpur in 2007. Having over 14 years of experience as an architect, he joined MPS in 2014. As the Managing Director of MPS India, together with MPS Group, Sikandar had headed the team in India in realization of successful industrial projects of German companies. His professional strength lies in a good bridge of understanding between the German as well as the Indian construction sector in depth. If time permits, we would be happy to take questions at the end of the session. In case there's a time paucity, our speakers will individually be happy to answer all your queries. We will find their contact details at the end of the session. I would now like to hand over the session to Mr. Dharam Krishnawat, who would be representing Roadland Partner and will be taking you through the various compliance aspects on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Karuna. Good afternoon to everyone in India and good morning to everyone joining us from Germany. So topic of today's presentation is setting up a production facility in India. In next 20 minutes, I will be touching upon various important aspects of production facility or how to set up a factory in India. Interestingly, due to COVID-19 situation, we have seen that business operations were kind of forced to reassess their future plans, and due to US-China trade conflict and also Make in India initiatives, the investors are actually giving preference to India, considering India as one of the preferred destinations. And also, we had seen that during the COVID situation, many of the international investors who were heavily dependent on their manufacturing activities from China had faced unprecedented supply chain disruption. So, but all in all, it is a situation where I would say investors should come to India and set up their manufacturing with full confidence. And from India side also, we should seize this opportunity, and wherever we are lagging, maybe in infrastructure, so should really put in the efforts. So basically, to start, or to set up a production facility, we have to first arrange for land. Now in India, broadly, we have four options to set up the land. One is being, having a greenfield. Other is going for private industrial parks. Then we have industrial zones, and we have then a leasing arrangement. Now, greenfield is considered to be a cheaper option, and rightly so, because these are the lands or properties which are not really, I would say, explored by the industry. So demand there is relatively low. However, they have their own challenges that maybe bureaucratic challenge might be there. Infrastructure might not be the one which matches the expectations of the industry, and of course, then you have some local challenges. Now, when we talk about private industrial parks, yes, they are developed really well, so they have a good infrastructures, but again, they come with their own cost. Industrial zone are actually somewhere in between. I would say they are neither expensive or not cheap, but they are not really developed considering or targeting a very specific audience. So that way the infrastructure is also average here. Leaseholding is when we talk about, it's more like the property which is being given by or on lease by industrial development corporations, be it Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation, Karnataka, Gujarat, BSC. So there it's being given on the leasehold option for 99 years. As such, the infrastructure there is pretty comparatively okay. However, such lease arrangement also comes with their to set of conditions which the party has to follow. Now, second, of course, the question comes, which is of course very important question for foreign investor, is that if I'm having or setting up a manufacturing unit, then who or what in what capacity I can enter into such a contractual arrangement. So in India, any Indian individual or a legal entity can enter into a renting, leasing, or purchasing arrangement like this. By Indian entity, we also mean that the Indian subsidiary of a foreign company. So if a foreign company looking to set up a manufacturing unit in India, they should ideally go through or set up an Indian subsidiary first, and should route the entire planning through their Indian subsidiary. Now, these options which we discussed, so we are just putting up a comparative chart here about what are the pros and cons and what would be the best fit. I would say best fit actually depends on the expectations of the planning of the investor. If they are looking for, of course, a very long-term plan, then leasehold is an option they should go for. 99 years is something which they will get. And also with all these industrial development corporations, 99 years basically has not yet expired. So, but the stand is that they will renew the lease for or extend it for another set of years. So that is a long-term option they have. If it's for a short term, then of course leasing is a better option. If we won't suggest renting to say so, for manufacturing setup for a smaller term, because the cost and the efforts which are required to set up manufacturing unit, this option would be very justified. Now, what are the procedures we have to follow when we are like renting or leasing a private land? So we should always first start with a MOU with the lessor. Now, MOU is basically a memorandum of understanding. It can be binding, it can be non-binding as per the understanding of the parties. However, it becomes a very basic document or important document of the transaction, because it have less of, I would say, legal complexities and more of actual information, like the dimensions parties agreed to buy and sell, the or these the commercials which parties have agreed, the timelines which parties are looking at it, because as soon once the MOU will be executed, next will come the due diligence. Now, from the sellers, buyer side, they want to for sure satisfy themselves with all the compliances and all. And from the seller side, they would like to, of course, close it the deal as soon as possible. So parties have to come up with the logical timelines, and also some condition precedents also need to be put in MOU, that if XYZ conditions are there. For example, if I as an investor will have some category of pollution or pollutant in my manufacturing process, and in the due diligence exercise it's been found out that the property is not suitable for that, then of course a deal breaker. So those points has to be considered in the MOU. Then that will be followed by our due diligence. As I said, it's mostly title due diligence which is being done, so that the investor can enjoy the property without any interruption. However, the compliances in past are also looked into, because that they can also be a challenge in running the operation successfully. And once the outcome of due diligence is positive, then parties can enter into a lease deal. Now, our tip is, of course, that the longer the tenancy, the leasing period we are looking at, the more in-depth due diligence has to be conducted. Now, second is the procedure for leaseholding option. This is broadly we are talking about, when you are entering into a long-term lease with Industrial Development Corporation. So as I mentioned that Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, they have all of them have the Industrial Development Corporations. The requirement, the laws governing them are state specific, but mostly I would say at least 80-90% same. However, the practices can differ. For example, in Maharashtra, when you are submitting the documents to MIDC, the documents can be signed by the directors of the company, and it's okay. But in Gujarat, they are more strict, so they also want approval of shareholders. So these kind of practical challenges or variations are there, which investors need to look into. Now, the process, as we had put forward, that first online application for permission has to be filed with, then payment of administration fees there, allocation of the land. Now, this kind of situation is where actually the land is not yet allocated to any party. So it's a fresh land which we are talking about. So these kind of steps will be required. There are also possibility that transfer of existing lease right are there. There, of course, the land is already allocated to the first party who is now transferring to the other. Again, due diligence aspect come in here. Due diligence here, I would say, is slightly more focused towards any charges being created, commercial charges being created on that property, or any non-compliances which are there on that property. Otherwise, with respect to title, if we are going with these industrial development corporations, then mostly there are no major issues with the title. Now, the next step is the lease agreement for development and construction, then occupation certificate, and then the lease agreement with the competent authority. So it's a procedure, the step broadly we have to follow. Now, how does the scenario looks like in the purchase of land? Now, purchase of land definitely is a better option, because once you purchase the land, then you have full flexibility in how you use the land. There are no restrictions attached that way. Economically also, it can be a good option if you are purchasing a land at a place where which is not so much in demand. However, as I mentioned earlier, we will have risk, maybe a local risk, practical risk, and bureaucratic challenges. In fact, we had seen, I can give you an example that a few years back, we had seen a situation where a freehold land was being sold and a good manufacturing project was coming up. The road was also there. And after the property was sold, then the forest department came up and said that the road which is being used there is actually a forest land. So the company or the investor was left with a situation that they really didn't have a kind of access road they wanted. So these kind of challenges can already be ironed out during the due diligence exercise, and also while purchasing the land, the investor also should be cautious of these challenges. Now, whether to go for leasehold or purchase of land, as I said, that it's a decision of the investor. Both have their own pros and cons. Purchase of land, if its location suits the investor, if the due diligence exercise is conducted thoroughly, there are no challenges. Then, of course, for lifetime, they have a asset which can be used the way they want. A leasehold, on the other side, is sector specific. The infrastructure there is being, of course, developed by the government, but with the intention to attract more investment. So basic infrastructure there might be better than what we can have when we purchase the private land. So the investor have to basically balance their expectations there and decide. Now, once we are through with the land, we have secured the land with whatever arrangement we had seen. The next step which comes is, I would say, this setting up of the construction or the setting up the building or constructing the building. Now, in India, we have a lot of bylaws to say so, which basically regulates the building or the construction of such industrial units. And they basically regulate the height, the building bulk, the architecture design, the construction aspect of the building. So it is very important to consider all these building bylaws in parallel when the company is planning and designing, the manufacturing unit. So that is something which need to be considered at advanced stage itself. Build to suit developers are also there who can take care of these building permits, and then it won't be a headache of the investor. Plug and play model are also something which is really attractive and quite acceptable practice in India. Now, this regarding the steps, it's very important to know that there are few laws and compliances which a company have to follow even before the construction starts, and few of them after construction has happened, but before the operations have started. So these kind of very small points can, if it's strategized and planned in beginning, then it can really help the company, the investor in it can really help the investor and the company in kind of planning the timelines of the project. So basically, like we are building plan approval or provisional fire NOC, drainage plan approval, consent to establish under Water or Air Act. These are being procured before the commencement of construction. And then we have building completion certificate, occupation certificate, NOC from fire department, now consent to operate. Earlier we had consent to establish, now we have consent to operate under water and air laws. That again has to be secured post construction, but pre operation. So basically the management have to or should ideally plan the project in such a manner that they can maybe start preparation of few of these compliances in advance. That will definitely save the time. Now, let me take you through some of the other registrations and licenses quickly, which are also very important to have the manufacturing unit running, and will be important business licenses. So one big is a importer and exporters code, so which is generally called as IEC. So IECs require at the time of either we are importing any goods or we are exporting any goods out of India. So this certificate the company has to procure. Now, second is environment clearance certificate. So in India, especially when we go when we select a property which is being owned by any development corporation, then at times the property, the areas are designated in different zones, be it red zone, orange zone, green zone. So basically, those zones are basically divided to the extent of the pollutants which are being or pollution which will be made by the industrial unit. So it is very important not only at the time of due diligence to see whether the our manufacturing process will be permitted at so and so land, and also secondly, if it's all good, then we should procure the pollution this certificate from the State Pollution Control Board and get it also renewed from time to time. Few state governments they have also a single window clearance for such certificates. In few states, we have to approach different departments for that. Fire safety certificate, as I mentioned, that it comes at two stage. One is pre-construction. We need to have a NOC from fire department, and also post-construction, but before starting the operations, we have to secure that. Then factory license, it depends on the industrial activity. So basically, every factory, to say so, will have to follow a set of labor law compliances. But also, if any of the activities are very specific, then such specific licenses has to be procured. For example, in India, if a factory is having a generator set, then there are a special set of compliances which have to be followed. So those the investor has to be mindful of. Yeah. Now, labor laws. Labor laws are, of course, laborers are backbone of any manufacturing unit. They are the one who, of course, run the operation, but also any uncomfortable situation with them can also halt the operation. So this is something which is a very delicate part of the manufacturing unit. So labor law compliances need to be addressed well. In India, it's a good news for investor. I would say that the government has recently consolidated and merged 29 existing labor laws into 4 codes. So as you see on the left-hand side of the screen, we have mentioned few of the labor laws which is right now are applicable. And the government has now developed these 4 codes. So Code of Wages, Code of Social Security, Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code, and Industrial Relation Code. So the codes and rules are ready. They had already received the approval from the Parliament, have President's assent also. 1st of April is a being date which government considers to implement them. However, during the budget speech, also the finance minister emphasized on implementing it, and it's being expected that they might be implemented even before 1st of April. So maybe in a week's time, or 2 weeks, a couple of weeks' time, we can expect these codes to be in the force. So overall, these are the set of planning which a company investor need to have when they are going to set up manufacturing unit in India. There were times when setting up a manufacturing unit in India was a bit of a challenge, but now there are set processes. Their experienced people, consultants are there. So, these are the set of requirements which are there, but they can all be planned very well, and it is actually possible that to bring up I would say a manufacturing unit operational in a within a proper timeline. So this is all from my side. Now we will hear from Mr. Sikandar Yadu how to build a facility, successfully in India. So I am just a minute giving the controls to Yadu.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me check if I have the control. Not yet. Just a moment. Oh, yeah. All right. Dharam, thank you so much. That was a very good presentation. And Karuna, that was a very good introduction to me. Thank you so much. I haven't had a good introduction in a long time. All right. The big question, yeah. Dharam has clearly explained what are the different formats in which you can come into India through a subsidiary, through a completely independent entity. And then you arrive at another big question, which is, okay, now that your format of entering India is clear, you want to build a facility, you want to produce your product and sell it, right? Building the facility. So this is a question in which, yes, you are coming across, you're coming to a totally different continent, and it will have different culture, which will lead to different understanding of construction and everything. And I will explain in the next few slides how this will really affect the realization of your project of building a perfect factory of sorts. Just to give you an introduction, MPS Group is a global company based in Stuttgart, and we were founded in 1984. 2010, we started in Shanghai, China. 2014, we started in India, and of course, we are going very strong from there. These are our clients all over the world, and many of, in fact, most of them are repetitive clients who we have served in Europe as well as China, and then also into India. Now, setting up an industry in India, the big question. Of course, you have, while I speak, I would like you to go through these points such as site and area selection, concept planning, due diligence, purchase of property, project planning. All of this is going to take a certain amount of time, maybe 14 to 18 months, but in our personal experience, it has been this much time because most of these are Mittelstand companies in which the production area has been anything between 5,000 square meter to 15,000 square meter. It's a different it's a different ball game altogether as compared to Germany. If you expect the same construction standards in Germany that are also going to happen in India, you are in for some big surprise. Let me elaborate on that. Different country, different culture. 4 words say it all. The moment you step out of Europe and you travel to Asia, you might have any preconceived idea about what you're stepping into, but you are in for a big surprise. A different culture leads to different understanding of construction. It's something you will not have seen in Europe, and it's something you have to deal with as reality. Yeah, and the only way you can deal with it is when you have the right planning partner with you. For example, if you take a look at this picture, clearly as a German company or as a European company, the first thing you would do is panic. But there are ways to circumvent this problem. There are ways to work with this problem, and there are ways to establish your project perfectly and in a very good condition that would be acceptable to a European company as well as an Indian firm. The very first step that you would want to do is site selection. Now, remember, India is a country which is 3,000 kilometers or even more from north to south and 3,000 kilometers from east to west. Where you select your site is very important. Where are your customers located? Are you trying to export? That India has a very long sea line, a coastline, which is on the west and east. So do you want to export or do you want to serve inland customers? With all the examples that I'm going to give you, it is going to be our actual experiences that we have had with our clients who are German companies who have tried to set up in India and the problems that we faced, so that I will showcase you real problems and the solutions we came up with. So feasibility study is something which is very important as an architect advising companies who want to set up in India, is that you have a very detailed understanding of where you want to be in this country. For example, this was one of our clients, and what was conveyed over email, what was conveyed over phone calls is that, yes, what you can see in the yellow is what we were supposed to get as land for our client. When we did a due diligence study, the actual situation was quite different from what was conveyed. The land was more, let's say, tilted in an angle, which means there was what you see in the green is something that the client was not getting. So coming to terms with exactly what you are being delivered at site, where you're located, for example, the soil conditions of where you're located will drastically affect the cost of your project. And this kind of homework, in my opinion, is very, very, very important, so that you know exactly how long your project is going to last and how much it's going to cost. Moving on to project planning. So take a look on the left. Now, this is also a definition of a window. This is a factory in India. Take a look on your right. This is also the definition of an industrial window. Yeah. Now, where do you line in between? I would say, yes, think global, act local, because if you are expecting to come into India and expecting 100% German quality of facility in India, no, that's not being realistic. However, you should not also be, as a global company which has its facilities all over the world, be okay with something that you see on the left. Now, this is just an example of a window. For example, on your left, you see clearly a drainage system, a rainwater drainage system, just a plastic pipe hanging. And on the right is a standard drainage system that is completely used in industries in Germany all over. So can you expect something in between? Can you expect exactly what you want in what you have in Germany to be in India? This is where the right planner is a very, very important factor for you in realization of your project in India. So if, for example, in the previous slide, These are not pictures that on the left, what you see, these are not pictures that we are showing of, let's say, facilities which are not in use. This is actually a functioning facility, which means a facility can function the way it is. You can look around the peripheral road or the maintenance or the way the wires are hanging. This is also an existing factory. And this is also an existing factory in Germany. But where do you draw the line in how much you want to compromise with quality or how much you want to localize? I wouldn't say compromise in quality. I would say you can get very good facilities as long as you have done your homework well in advance. Doing your homework well in advance. For example, will the conventional technique of realizing a project work? For example, you just have drawings which are shared with the clients, and the clients, of course, maybe manufacturers, they are not architects. They do not understand what an architectural drawing is supposed to represent or convey as a message. Will that work? No, because there are people sitting in Germany who are stakeholders in your project. There are people sitting in India who are stakeholders in project, and you have your planners in Germany, maybe in India as well, who are all working together. You have to improvise. You have to use technology to your advantages. A better approach would be when you have drawings along with visual inferences, visual pictures in which the clients in Germany or the company in Germany or your partners in India understand exactly well, because most of the major of the problem is that when the idea is not conveyed from Germany to India correctly, that is when all the costs, all the timelines are a surprise in your project realization. So a good documentation of drawings as well as specifications really helps. I would always advise and recommend to spend extra time on planning and go into quick execution as opposed to little time on planning and then having surprises every now and then during your execution phase. Another way of approaching, in fact, this is how we also work, is BIM, which is Building Information Modeling, in which before you have set even a single brick at site, you clearly know in 3D what exactly is your facility going to look like, what are going to be the services, how is it going to look from interior, so that you're very sure. And all of this pictorial documentation also helps your contractor who's going to be on site executing to know exactly what you have in mind and what you want to realize as a project. So detailed specifications is the only way you can move forward. And building information modeling, which is 3D, it is almost like building a facility in 3D in virtual world before you actually start doing the exact thing on actual ground. Yes, this is a very good example of how communication of, let's say, specifications happens between India and Germany, or should happen between India and Germany, in which the materials that are going to be used in your project, are they in line with your global standards? Are they in line with what you expect from your facility in India? Now, all of these examples that I'm showing you, these are actually our projects in which the communication between Germany and India was happening, where you can clearly see, okay, in this particular area of my facility, this is the, let's say, the carpet I want to have, or this is the window I have, or this is the color scheme that I want to have. So this is a better approach, or a more logical approach, in order to realize your facility way better than a conventional approach. So another very important thing is, how hot does India get? Especially as a company which has never stepped into foreign waters, maybe China, yes, but let's say a different country like India. You're expecting temperatures like, yes, you're expecting temperatures like 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. Average rainfall one of the largest manufacturing hubs in India is, of course, Mumbai. Last year, we had approximately 2,500 millimeters of rainfall. I'm not so sure, but I think compare that to Stuttgart, it was 850 millimeters. Maybe my information is not correct on Stuttgart, but yes, it's quite a lot of rainfall in India. And there are 3 critical months in India, which the monsoon season is very, very heavy, which affects your construction. Average humidity, you're looking at 75 to 95% of humidity in main manufacturing hubs such as Mumbai and Chennai. And all of this information is very important and vital for your project realization, because this is completely the opposite of what you have in Germany, which means a good planner would recommend things like energy analysis, in which you factor in the heat. It's exactly the opposite of Germany. In Germany, you want to capture the heat. In India, you want to keep away the heat so that it's more comfortable for your machines, for your workers, and better in environment. So a good planner would help you study the local climatic conditions, design your buildings, change the specifications accordingly so that your running costs are low, your air conditioning costs are low in your facility. And this is very, very important. And this is something you can realize from BIM, which is Building Information Modeling, in wherein you can custom make or tailor make your specifications of your facility. Government approvals. Now, that's $1 million question in India. And I'm sure all of you must already have this at the back of your mind. You have decided you want to move to India, but how does the bureaucracy work? Again, this is an example from one of our projects. On the left, you see something marked in red, which is a holy tree as in, like I mentioned in my earlier slides, there is a cultural difference happening between Europe and Indian subcontinent. So this holy tree is something that the employees in the shop floor, the employees around the employees in the shop floor are, let's say, praying to. Now, this client of ours wanted to expand the facility. However, this holy tree was coming in between. So do you build your factory around the holy tree, because it's not possible to cut it because of the emotional values that is attributed to this holy tree? The other option was, of course, we can shift, and this is on the right, you can see how big is the holy tree. So you can shift it and let your factory, let's say, expand on the southern side. But that is where the government approvals are very, very important if in case you want to shift a tree. The point I'm trying to make with this slide is that the government approvals is a different chapter in your project realization altogether. You have construction commencement certificate, you have firefighting no objection certificate, you have the pollution control board, you have the environmental clearance, you have the occupancy certificate. This is probably 4 out of 60 or 70 certificates that you need in order to realize your project or your facility. And hence, a planner which understands these intricacies in detail is very, very important. One way on how to ensure quality control in construction. Like I've mentioned before, it is specifications. For example, you are setting foot in foreign waters. You are setting foot in a foreign country which has different understanding of construction, different understanding of what European specifications are. As I mentioned before, you should not expect to have a 100% German facility in India, but you need to localize and still not compromise on the quality that you would want to have as your global signature, because you are all over the world, and you would want to maintain a certain degree of homogeneity in your facilities. So the only way you can maintain quality control during construction is put down the specifications of what you expect very clearly. The next step is detailed specifications. And the next step is highly, highly detailed specifications, because you should leave no doubt in the contractor's mind, in exactly what he has to build. Because the moment there is a little bit of doubt, the contractor will put in his own ideas, or he will put in his own ways of doing the construction. And this you do not want. And that is why specifications are very, very important. And this is where you and your planner can sit down together, put in that extra time of homework and exactly what you want, put it down in specifications and drawings. Just to give you an example, here is from a local planner that we had got from one of our clients. This is just a small snapshot of a drywall partition. This is the way they specified it. They want item number 1, C1, drywall partition. They want providing and fixing of 150 thick full height partition. The question, 150 thick, should it have insulation in between? If yes, should it be 60? Should it be 80 What is the density of the insulation you expect? What is the coating on the drywall? So point being, these are very undetailed specifications, and this will lead to a lot of surprises. Everything that the contractor is left to assume in India, he will maximize on his profits by compromising on quality. And so how we do it is each and every specification, as you can see, these are actual snapshots of our contract documents where you see the pictures, you see the detailed material list, you see the installation process, and everything is detailed out. And this is the best way in order to do quality control in any project. Project realization, moving on, you have project reporting. For example, a typical way of project reporting would be, if you look at on the left picture, there is items and there's description. There's items which is casting, and description is reinforced cement concrete work at beams and slab at fourth at partition level. Or for example, on the right hand side, you can see that yes, you have today you have poured in concrete of 2 cubic meter or 5 cubic meter or 10 cubic meter. But what exactly does this mean to the client who's sitting in Germany? I mean, you have the project report saying that, yes, today I installed so many reinforcement rods. The big question is, okay, have you done my ground floor? Have you done my first floor? Have you done my second floor? Or is my administration building complete? So these are the questions. So a better way of project reporting is pictorial, which is again an example of how we do it. Is you can see that, yes, there are pictures. On the left, you can see what we have casted today, or the flooring that we have done, or the ceiling that we have done, if in case there is a hindrance in the project because of labor not being there or anything. It is very clear to the client what is exactly happening in their site in India. And this is very important, that you have a very crystal clear, transparent communication, even when it comes to day-to-day reporting. End product. For example, this is what I was mentioning before, the building information modeling. It completely helps you conceptualize and visualize your project way in advance before even excavation is done. For example, for one of our projects, this was the final 3-dimensional render sent to the client in Germany that, okay, we agree upon this, and we got a go-ahead from a client, and I would just show you exactly what the finished product was. This is how the actual project turned out. Observation here, a successful project is the one that you get what you planned. And the closest you get to this statement is literally the most successful project that you can have. I would repeat again, this is, pay close attention to what you see here and exactly what was constructed on site. There you go. So this is how, with a partnership with a right planner who understands Germany, who understands India culturally, technically, and in all other aspects, will be the right partner who can help you realize your project in India. Some of the projects that we have done in India, I mean, of course, your MPS group has done projects all over the world, but since it's Mumbai meets Stuttgart, we'll focus on India. Yes, overall, you can see some of the projects that we have done, but if I were to zoom onto some of the pictures, this is a very prestigious client of ours, again, in India, in a city close to Pune. This is another project in a city, Pune, a German company from close to Stuttgart, in fact, from Glatten. This is another client of ours. This was in north of India. So yes, MPS India is operating pan-India. That's, yeah. Then this is the interior of the project in Pune. This is the administration building of one of the projects we did in India. This is a repetitive client. So what you saw before, this client also asked us to do their facility in Bengaluru, first in Pune. The next office they want to set up in Bengaluru. And then the third office, they again wanted to set us up in Pune. This is the reception area of one of our most prestigious clients, also from Baden-Württemberg. And this is a very big research and development center that we designed and were the project managers of. It's over 15,000 square meters, spread over 6 floors. This is what the interior looks like. Yep. The canteen area. So yes, we don't have to compromise on quality as such, but with the partnership with right planners, you can deliver maybe 85% of what you have in Germany. This is the finish. You've already seen this, yes. And Mr. Winfried Meyer, he's the managing director of MPS Germany. And Mr. Witzina, he's also the managing director in MPS Germany. And we are headed by Mr. Sunny Lee, Mr. Stephen Glux in China, and I'm the managing director in MPS India. I would be happy, more than happy to take questions.
Thank you, Sikandar. Thank you, Dharam. That was a fantastic presentation. I believe very enlightening for many companies who do want to come to India. I think that's making the passage very, very safe, very smooth. So I'll just move on to the questions. We have received a question, actually a couple. Okay, let me start with the first question. I think, Sikandar, this is for you. How will I find a suitable land to set up a production facility in India?
A suitable land. Okay. The answer to that question is quite simple. I mean, number one, define suitable land. If you are looking for suitable land as far as proximity to your customer is concerned, number one. If you're looking for suitable land as far as if you're, like I mentioned in my presentation, are you wanting to export products from India, then you would definitely want to be near the best of the ports, close to Europe or close to Southeast Asia. So it depends on suitable land. If it's like mix, then yes. It's a very detailed subject. I mean, if that question could be elaborated upon, I could go into the details. But yes, you need to redefine define your priorities very clearly, and then with your architect, you can select on, let's say, what a suitable land is. Yeah.
Just I would also like to contribute here on with a couple of suggestions. So, as Sikandar already mentioned that there are several factors which we need to consider before we can pin down to a suitable land. Be it where are your customers, where are what are your expectations from your production. Also, in India, since some time, a few areas have developed as a hub. For example, if you talk about a place like Pune, it can be safely called as an automobile hub. But on the other side, if you see on Chennai side, a lot of renewable energy projects are coming. So if you are a company who want to invest or who is into manufacturing of automobile parts, then I would suggest that Maharashtra is more suitable. And so we have to see all these factors. And also, as I covered in my presentation, that one is freehold land, of course, is available everywhere, but we have to see the infrastructure. And also these industrial development corporations, they are there in all the states, but few of them are really doing a fantastic job. So maybe, being there will already help the company with having, very good infrastructure support, and also the companies around them will also be world-class MNC. So as Sikandar also mentioned, that once we have answers to these factors, then we can maybe narrow down to what can be the suitable land or location for the facility.
Just to summarize, three questions that you can answer, especially when you have the question like what is the suitable land, is number one, what do you want to sell? Number two, who do you want to sell it to? Number three, are there some taxation relaxations that you're looking at when it comes to setting up in India? When you answer these three questions, you're right. The right planner will help you identify the right land. Yep.
Thank you. We have another question. Dharam, this would, I think, be suitable for you to answer. Are there any programs by the Indian government which help German companies to start their business in India?
Correct. So, Karuna, actually, this question pertains more to the subsidies and tax incentives which are being given by the government. So basically, how it goes is that it's not like that the government will start giving benefit even before the project is being executed if someone shows the interest. But yes, there are few governments who kind of enter into some MOUs, and some broader outlines can be drawn, and then the benefits are being extended in form of subsidies, in form of some tax benefits. In fact, in last year only, government has also come up with some tax benefits to the newer manufacturing unit who are employing X number of people. So to answer the question, yes, there are not one, but there are many programs which a German company or a foreign investor can take benefit of if they are investing in India. Make in India, for example, the program itself have few benefits attached to it. So based on the sector we are, and some of these tax benefits are subsidies are extended by local state governments. So which state the manufacturing unit will be there, it can be looked into. But right now I have projects like going on in the state of Tamil Nadu, in Gujarat, and in Maharashtra. Like I'm handling on my own. So there we had seen that all three state governments are really encouraging the investment through these.
Okay. Dharam, in continuation, would you like to elaborate on another question we have is, what are the pros and cons of special economic zones in India?
So it's basically, see, special economic zones, or SEZ as we call them, they comes with some special set of conditions, that what kind of, and they also have I would say a limitation attached to them with respect to the kind of activities which are being carried on there. So yes, special economic zones are set up to encourage that specific sector by the government. So definitely, if you are there, the government definitely extend some benefits. One very simple example I can give you, for example, if you are in IT field, and if you are into IT SEZ, then the property which is there, the government gives some benefits on the stamp duty which has to be paid. So yes, these kind of pros are definitely there. Cons, I won't really say so, because it's like an investor can go and set up their manufacturing unit wherever they want. If they go to SEZ, they get some additional benefits, which of course the government also, and these SEZs again, a lot of state governments come up with these plans. So it will only help. I won't say that it will be con, or it will be a loss-making situation for this.
Okay, thank you. Sikandar, the next question is for you. How should I deal with construction defects? In continuation, there is a similar question. How long will we need for construction approval, and how does the process look like?
Right. So there are two questions. One is, how should I deal with construction defects? The second question is construction approvals related. Okay,
Right.
let's address the first question. How should I deal with construction defects? Okay. Number one, as I mentioned in my presentation, construction defects are literally a symptom of lack in specifications. So if in case during construction process, you have specified exactly what you want, there should be no construction defects. Keeping that aside, let's see a situation in which there are construction defects, in which the contractor has not followed some of the construction guidelines given by the architect. You should have definitely in your contract agreement, you should have a defects liability period. You should have things like penalties when it comes to contractor not following your designs or design specific guidelines. And even if the contractor has not followed that, if in case you still have construction defects, then you have still a snag list which you should approach and deal together with the contractor. Of course, in all of our projects, there have been contractors not following the guidelines and rules. And then we as planners, we come into the picture, hey, listen, this is your contract. You should have a watertight contract. That is very, very important when it comes to, let's say, observing quality control. Yeah. Number two was construction approval. Construction approval, or let's say the licensing process, or all certificates and no objection certificates and all sorts of government documentation, it starts before the project and it ends after the project. So it's very hard for me to explain. In a nutshell, you go to one particular authority, you seek commencement for construction certificate in which they allow you to construct. And later on, you start applying at different stages of construction. You start applying to fire department, pollution department, the factory inspector, and they keep on giving you the no objection certificates, towards the end of which you compile all of those NOCs, no objection certificates, submitted to the final authority, and then they give you like occupancy certificate. Yes, you can occupy your factory, you can occupy your facility and start functioning. So it's a process which lasts from before the project to after the project. Yeah, if your project is 14 months, your licensing process is lasting you at least 16 months. Yeah.
So just maybe Sikandar, slightly if I can add here. So as Sikandar rightly mentioned that putting up a very strict timeline is not really possible. However, out of experience, we can say that the permissions which are required pre-construction, we should easily park minimum 3 to 4 months for them. And those which are required post-construction, a similar timeline. Yep. So I would say your construction timeline to say so, plus roughly 6 months, we should have for approvals.
Yeah, and that is precisely the reason why I maintained a separate chapter for approvals altogether in my presentation, because it's a different ballgame altogether. You have to do a lot of homework in advance. It's a difficult market, but not unachievable. It can be, with the right partners, you can easily get it. Not a problem. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And we have one more question for you, Sikandar. What is more in common, privately owned constructions, state or some industrial park developers which build to suit or rent?
Yes, so this is, okay. Construction in India is sort of transforming. What I've noticed, what I've observed in the past 5 years is in a state of transformation. Previously, one would have a lot of that yes, a foreign establishment comes into India, buys a piece of land, and then establishes their facility. But of late, I've been seeing a transformation in the sense that yes, build to suit is becoming very popular, in which you sanction a bidder or a contractor to build your facility completely on his own cost, the contractor's cost, and then they lease out that facility to you for the next 10 years or 11 years on annual lease or yes. So this is something which is recent. I won't say very authentic, not very traditional, but a bit recent. Then when it comes to a build or rent or yes, greenfield is always the best. I'm a bit traditional in that essence that yes, what you have your plot of land and you develop it and you completely get it to your own specifications. But build to suit, you can have a bidder, but you can have your planning partners give the right specifications to your bidder and say that okay, this is exactly how the facility should be, and you the bidder can then quote the monthly lease amount or yeah.
Okay, great. So I think we'll now wind up our Q&A session as well. I would like to thank our audience for joining and participating in our session today. We hope that our presentation was of resourceful value and that it's a good takeaway for everybody who joined the session. We will be happy to answer all questions, even individually. You can find the contact details of Mr. Dharam Krishnawat and Mr. Sikandar Yadu on the slide. We will also be sharing a copy of the presentation with all our participants post this session. So please feel free to contact us. We wish you a very great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Karuna.